بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب الأرباب ومسبب الأسباب وخالق الخلق من تراب أحمده سبحانه وتعالى أن هدانا للدين القويم وجعلنا من أمة خير المرسلين أمة النبي الأمين اللهم صل عليه في الأولين وصل اللهم عليه في الآخرين وصل اللهم عليه في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين وسلم اللهم تسليما كثيرا ثم أما بعد عباد الله اتقوا الله حق تقاته فإن تقوى الله هي السبيل المنجية في الدنيا والآخرة يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Brother in Islam, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all His mercy, all His blessing, all His guidance to us in this dunya. All goods that He have covered us with. Since we were a kid, until we became a teenager, until we became an adult, until we reach 50s and 60s. So our life should be running through this daily reminder of Alhamdulillah. If you are 50 years old, that means you have repeated Alhamdulillah in your life more than 2 million or 50 million. If you are 20 years old, that means you have recited Alhamdulillah more than 1 million times in your life. Is it just Alhamdulillah? But are we really working on Alhamdulillah or not? Continuing in Surah Al-Fatiha, the whole surah is the summary of the Quran. We have to understand that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He called it the mother of the book, Ummul Kitab, might be a reason. So every single meaning, every single verse in Surah Al-Fatiha is a summary of the whole Quran. We have talked about Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Just Rabb al-Alameen. This is the summary of the whole Quran, Rabbil Alameen. If you just keep reminding yourself in your daily paces that you are Rabb, you are Ma'bud and He is Rabb, just by Rabbil Alameen. He is Rabb and you are servant. He is a creator. He is the owner. He is the most powerful. You are the servant. The funny thing that people nowadays doesn't like the word servant because their history of the slavery and so on, so on, so on. When we're talking about servant to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I rather use the word slavery when we are talking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's really mean. It really gives you the meaning. But nowadays we're using the word servant. It's two different things. We have to really distinguish. When you say servant, you are servant in a certain time. When you are in duty, you are serving that Lord or that master. When you're off the work, you're not serving him. We are using this word more often and often because we are really doing that. This is the truth. We are enjoying the use of word servant because we are really want to be servant. We don't want to be slave for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to pray whenever we feel that we want to pray. We want to worship whenever we feel that we are in worship. The person, when he entered the masjid, he became the most truthful person. As soon as he leaves, he became the most liar person. So many Muslims nowadays like that. When he entered the masjid, he started to be the most pious person. As soon as he leaves, he became the most ridiculous person on earth. When he entered the masjid, he started to be reciting the Quran. Oh, do not do with riba, brother. Oh, it's forbidden. As soon as he leaves, he's calling his mortgage people. Right? Because we're servant. Because we chosen to be servant. And the media has played role in taking us to that way to be servant, not a slave for Allah. So we ended up worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whenever we think we need to be worshipping Him. This is why we are not really saying Alhamdulillah correctly. So when you say Alhamdulillah, you are thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for creating you as a slave for Him. Why? Because He is Rabbul Alameen. Why are you thanking Him because to be slave? Because He is Rabbul Alameen. Some people think that if you are a slave, that means you must be under punishment. Because in the slavery time, you are a slave for someone, you must be in duty 24 hours every day, throughout your life. You miss to do something, you will be punished. So people have transport that meaning even to Islam, to the religion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they start to believe that if they didn't worship, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will punish them. The people just have transferred that meaning. I don't know for why. They believe if they didn't worship, they will be punished. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have clearly stated, مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ. There is no need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to punish you. What gonna raise in His rank if He punish you? He doesn't have any reason to punish you. We have, because we just don't want to be slaves for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we think about slavery that it's punishment. Which is not. Surah Al-Fatiha explains you that clearly. He said, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. You are happy to be slave for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because He's Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. He's the merciful and He's the most merciful. Some scholars said the merciful, the first Ar-Rahman referred to the dunya, that He have covered you with rahmah. And Ar-Rahim covered you in the akhirah. So He will cover you also in the akhirah. See, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. This is why you should be proud, because you are a slaver for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will treat you with rahmah, with mercy, not with just. And we are so silly sometimes. When we make dua, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to treat us with His just. This is so annoying to me when I hear it. You don't deserve the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you have done nothing that will grant you the just for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you should seek the rahmah. He have promised you that He will cover you with His rahmah. He have granted that. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most merciful. He granted that to you if you became thankful to Him. If you became thankful to Him. Why you should be thankful to Him? Because He is Maliki Yawmiddin. Maliki Yawmiddin. He got the ownership of that Yawmiddin. We can separate this verse to two parts. Just Maliki is Maliki and Yawmiddin. Two different parts. Maliki, they have narrated that Prophet ﷺ has also recited that by Malik. People of North Africa, they always recite Malik. And you will have so many complaints from the people from India or Pakistan. Why do you recite Malik? It's Malik. And they go over and over in debate sometime to prove each one, and they all right anyway. There's a narration. So he have recited Malik and he have recited Malik. So what's the difference in meaning? Malik and Malik. In charge of is Malik. Ownership is Malik. He owns it. Malik, he's the king of the kings. When the scholars have goes into details, they didn't really describe it as a king as we think it, the king, the ruler. He said the ruler of the ruler. He's the king of the kings. They describe it that way to get you to the point you can't even imagine. To make your imagination is limited. Because you're talking about Allah. And we became very, oh, he is the king of the kings. And we repeat it over. So what does it mean, the king of the kings? The kings of the kings. Nowadays you have a ruler, you have a president in the masjid, every single masjid. You have a president, he thinks that he owns the masjid. So many people will say that, I promise. He's just a president. He will make decisions and he will make, and you have so many people saying, oh, he thinks he owns the masjid. He thinks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him the authority to own the masjid. See the fear? This fear we are missing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we talk about ruler or a president or managers or supervisors, we have this fear in our relations. And they're just single human being like us. But when we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't have that fear anymore. We don't have that fear anymore. This is the truth. We don't have that fear. So this is how we should think toward Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. If you're coming late to your work, your supervisor, you just want to sneak out, you're just trying to get a peek to see how he's going to look to you. Is he going to give you a smile? Is he going to just look at you? What's he going to do? You have that fear in your heart. But when we come to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we don't have that fear. So we should have the understanding the meaning of Maliki Yawmiddin. Just the word Malik, Malik, the ownership. Your son is 5 years old, when he want to plug the electricity, tell him no. When he reaches 6, oh dad, I know what to do. He's already 6. If you are back home, you will be beating him. I promise all of you. You're back home. But over here, because he feels that he got free to speak. He got the free right to express himself. And we respect that. Which is fine. But why don't you respect it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why don't we respect it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is the question. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of us toward understanding His verses over and over. إنه على كل شيء قدير قلت ما قلت صواب فمن الله وإن خطأ فمن نفسي ومن الشيطان استغفر الله واشكروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له غير الله هاديا. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصل على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين وصل على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين وسلم اللهم تسليما كثيرا. So knowing Maliki Yawmiddin is very important meaning for our daily life. You are driving your car, you are in the nation. This nation is being ruled by something. By the King of the Kings. By Allah. Nowadays we try to forget all this meaning. You do good in your job, you think because you're smart. You became rich, you think you are smart. And the funny thing is here, you have somebody, he's 20 years old, he want to be rich. He want to be rich. So he start to work. He collect the money. He became a little rich. As soon as he get that stage, oh, he'll think, I need to get more. And he start to work more. He start to collect more money. Then you know, oh, I need to go back to Allah. Have you seen this before? Have you seen this before? The truth is no. We've never seen somebody who is running for the dunya have been satisfied with it. We have to understand clearly. Why? Because he is Maliki Yawmiddin. You will not get more than what you deserve. He is the most merciful, so he is treating you with generosity. He is the most mercy, He is treating you with generosity. Not because you deserve it, no, because He is merciful. He likes His creation. And He has chosen us as a human being to be His best creation because He is mercy. That's why you see so many people want to be rich. And until they're rich, until they became billionaire, they're still not happy. So many Muslims are rich, and if you ask them, they say we're not happy. Whether their family are falling apart, whether they are away from their family, they're not happy. Because you are in the kingdom of the king. Because you are ruled by the ruler. This is how we should think toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're doing good in something, that's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy on you. You said Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. You said Maliki Yawmiddin. This meaning should be expressed inside you every day. You are reciting Al-Fatiha over and over and over throughout your life. There was a little calculation were made by somebody. They were mentioning that a person, if he lives 60 years, he might have recited Surah Al-Fatiha more than 1 billion times. Billion times. And the end of it is Muslim the worst nation nowadays. They're killing themselves. They're fighting with themselves. They're attacking each other. They're the most backbiter people in nations. They're the most silly people in nations. They're the most poor people in nations. This is the truth. This is what the number have said. It's not what I'm saying. We're not the most educated people nowadays. We feel sorry if you are going to school nowadays. The funny thing that I have seen somebody, he was working in a gas station. He was sorry because he was working in a gas station. I said, why are you working? He said, because I am trying to get money to finish my school. I said, you should be proud because you're doing both at one time. But because the society doesn't support that no more, if you are working in a gas station, you might be a low-class person. This is new things Muslims nowadays are experiencing. If you are working in a gas station or in a shop or anywhere, the society will consider you a low-class person. If there is an event in the masjid, they will not invite you. This is the truth. Because you're going to work in a gas station. And if the owner of the gas station is a Muslim, and that Muslims know that there's an event in the masjid, he will not give you permission to go. Oh brother, you cannot go there, you have to work. This is what's going on. So the relation has been broken between Muslims. That's all against the next verse. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. All previous verses were single verbs, single sentence. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just switch it? From a single sentence to the plural sentence. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. Even though if you are leading the prayers, you are the only person you are reciting Al-Fatiha, so why you are talking on behalf of others? إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. You repeat it over and over and over. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. And then we became the most disunited community. We're the least people who are united. We are losing the meaning of إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ. So this is how we should understand the Quran. Discover the meaning of the Quran. This is how we should think toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from just the first verse of the Quran, first chapter, first surah of the Quran. You cannot perform a prayer without it. So you must be reminding yourself over and over. This is not working nowadays. It's working now. This is how we should think toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm just going step by step for 3 verses now. See how much meaning we're gathering, how much information we're getting. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of us toward His verses. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide all of us toward Him. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unite all of us toward the right path. اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم اعز الإسلام والمسلمين. وأصلح حال المسلمين. اللهم اصلح حال المسلمين. اللهم اصلح حال المسلمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم فرج هم المهمومين ونفس كرب المكروبين واقض الدين عن المدينين واشف مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات برحمتك إنك غفور رحيم. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم واعف عنا إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. عباد الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العظيم الجليل يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون.